Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cricket Daily. It's Tuesday, the 12th of October. I'm Andrew Menczel, co-host of the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. I'm joined by Daniel Beswick from the Emerging Cricket podcast and Channel 7's cricket coverage. Daniel, because it's our first ever show on YouTube, I've donned my Australian jumper that Tim May gave me back in the mid-90s when he was dropped from the Aussie team. So I've got the Aussie jumper on to get in the mood for our video.
That's perfect, Manners. It's one of the all-time great Australian kits. It's up there with the 99 World Cup kit for me, and probably the one just after, the sort of 01, 02 blue on the sides for mine. That one's just a little bit before my time, Manners. Sorry to say, but yeah, one of the all-time greats, I think.
I'm growing into the extra large size of Tim May as the years go on. All right, but let's get into it. Lots to cover. RCB have crashed out again of the IPL. There's bad news for Paul Dennett, whose favourite part of cricket is DRS, so more to come on that. And I'm going to get Daniel to give me his top order for the Aussie team in the T20 World Cup. But let's start with the big news overnight. Another IPL and another year of disappointment for RCB fans. Virat Kohli, for some reason, batted first, and they got off to a good start, being 1 for 53 after 6 overs. But then they only scored a further 85 runs in the next 14 overs. Virat Kohli top scored with 39 off 33. Glenn Maxwell made 15 off 18 deliveries. AB de Villiers made 11 off 9 deliveries. Sunil Narayan dismissed the big three of Kohli, Maxwell, and AB de Villiers. So quite a night for him. He finished with 4 for 21. Chakravarti, none for 20 off 4. So RCB's total of 138 just wasn't enough. In reply, KKR, the Kolkata Knight Riders, won with 2 balls to spare. Shubman Gill opening up, top score with 29 off 18. And there was a vital lower order contribution from Sunil Narayan of 26 off just 15 deliveries. He was a runaway player of the match winner. KKR home with 2 balls to spare. Pretty good bowling performance by RCB trying to defend that total. Chahal 2 for 16 off 4. Inexplicably, he's not in the Indian T20 World Cup squad. Harshal Patel 2 for 19 off 4. Siraj 2 for 19 off 4. But poor Dan Christian, 1.4 overs, none for 29. He almost cost RCB the game. And a pretty rough night for RCB, Daniel.
Well, there's a saying in American sports, to take kind of parlance from them, defense wins championships. And the same rings true with cricket. When the going gets tough, when things are a little bit tense, the targets seem to come down a little bit. The totals seem to come down a little bit with the bat, and it makes the bowling all the more vital. And I look at that RCB bowling attack, and outside of a couple of guys, Harshal Patel, Mohammad Siraj, there really isn't a lot there. And Glenn Maxwell was forced to bowl 3 overs last night. He'd only bowled 13 overs in the entire tournament leading up to that moment, which makes me think that they're a little bit short on the bowling side. And it doesn't matter, from the likes of de Villiers, Maxwell, Kohli and co. When it comes down to the tense pressure situations of playoff cricket, so often we see the likes of the Mumbai Indians stand up because their bowling's always been probably the stronger of the two disciplines. RCB for a long time have used the modus operandi of, well, we'll always score enough runs. It doesn't matter who bowls. It doesn't matter how many runs we concede. We'll always score more runs than the opposition. Didn't ring true once again here. And yeah, for RCB, a lot of soul searching needs to be made. We know Kohli's leaving as captain. There will be a rebuild of sorts there. Saw a lot of vile comments thrown at the likes of Maxwell, de Villiers and co. Completely unacceptable. Maxwell's gone on Twitter and made that quite known, and on Instagram as well. But again, to look at the mega auction next year for the IPL, for RCB to be relevant and to be in the hunt once again, I think they're going to have to look at restocking their bowling options, because that seems to be where they fall down, especially when it comes to the period at the end of the tournament where the pitches are a little bit slower, runs are at a premium, and just that tenseness and those nerves rise just that little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Daniel Christian just a terrible night for him. And he did cop a bit on social media afterwards, even has gone on and asked people to leave his partner alone, which prompted Glenn Maxwell to tweet out these thoughts. Great season by RCB. Unfortunately, we fell well short of where we should be. Some of the garbage that has been flowing on social media is absolutely disgusting. We are human beings who are giving our best each and every day. Try being a decent person, maybe, instead of spreading abuse. And he goes on with another post to write, unfortunately, there is some horrible people out there that make social media a horrible place to be. And no excuse for the players getting trolled like that. I would suggest, though, when you've been eliminated from the IPL, probably don't go on social media for a couple of days. The fans are so passionate. I wouldn't jump on social media after you've lost. So that means Kolkata Knight Riders will take on the Delhi Capitals to see who will play Chennai in the finals. Who do you expect to win between KKR and Delhi, Daniel?
Oh, mate, at this point, you could probably flip a coin. I do like the look of KKR, and just we spoke about him before, Sunil Narayan. He's, I think, a point of difference between the two teams, not only with his outstanding bowling record, but he chimes in with some crucial runs with the bat as well.
Okay, well, if you're going to bring him up, I want to jump in with his record.
Go for it.
Because it's just incredible. So he's played 381 T20 matches. He's taken 423 wickets. His economy is 6.04. So he's basically going at a run a ball over 381 T20 games with a strike rate of every 20.5 balls getting a wicket. I mean, that is stellar.
Oh, it's insanity. And probably something that we have to factor in is the fact that he plays a lot of cricket in the CPL and at the IPL where the wickets are slow, and it's conducive to something like this where he can bring the economy down. But it comes at this point where he's such a threat that the opposing teams have basically consigned themselves to defeat and to just say, look, let's just nudge Narayan around and mount the pressure on the other bowler at the other end. Which means that he's almost won the battle before he's even gone out to bowl. So that's just the respect the man has on the scene. And when you factor that in, and when you play him in your 11, he's going to give you that 1, 2, 3 for 24 off his 4 overs. It's just so good for a captain. It's so heartening for a captain to know that you've just got that when you need it there, just in case you fall into a bit of strife.
Yeah, spot on. And he's batting at 150 strike rate as well. So he makes those handy 20 and 30s with the bat, whether he was opening up in the past or in the middle order. So Daniel's tipping KKR against Delhi.
Yeah, let's lock it in.
All right. Well, enjoy that match. That's Thursday night. And then the final is Friday night. So it's going to be a big end to the week of cricket. Fox Sports is reporting that Tom Moody is going to apply for the Indian coaching job. It'll be the 4th time he's applied. He was knocked back in 2017 and 2019. What do you think his chances are, Daniel?
Look, I would put them under 50%, purely based on, I'm sure there will be a number of candidates eyeing for that job. It's a top gong in so many respects. But I look at Moody's record at the IPL, and I know he's not coach per se here. He's running a more administrative role. But Sunrisers Hyderabad, with the team that they've got, dead last in the IPL, you have to ask a lot of questions of the leadership too. We've seen David Warner basically frozen out of the team between Moody and Trevor Bayliss as well. So, look, the recent record doesn't bode well for Moody. And we know that in this cricketing world and coaching being a big part of it, recency bias plays a big part in the decision-making process for
India.
a lot of cricketing decisions, whether it's playing members, team members on the field, or the coaching staff. So I look at the recent record and I would probably suggest that it won't look favorably in Moody's favor. And not to mention his role at Sri Lanka as well in times gone by. And they have not got a great recent record either. Whether that's down to the coaching or the players, I don't think is relevant, really. I can't see him winning that job personally at the moment. I think he's a great coach. I think he's someone that brings a lot of knowledge and tactical nous. But the recent record doesn't look good in his favour at the moment, and I can't see him getting the job at this point. I know he's applied for it 4 times, this being the 4th time. I can't see it changing this time.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'd be curious if India do go down the route of hiring a foreign coach this time, or they stay with someone local or a local Indian. So, more news though in the shortest form of the game. Bad news for Paul Dennett, whose favourite part of cricket is the DRS. There will be no DRS for the Big Bash or the WBBL this season. The main reason is that it's just too hard getting the DRS system around Australia with the current border restrictions and COVID chaos due to the different state borders, and you have to bring in operators from overseas to man the system. On top of that, they'll need the DRS for the Ashes. So it's just going to be too much for the organisers. I totally understand that they've been hamstrung with this, but what they do need to do is bring in a replay type system where at least they can eliminate the howlers. It should be sort of a rule where if there's evidence based on the replays available to overturn the decision, then that should be done, because we saw last year a couple of bad decisions where you don't need DRS, you just need to look on the replay. So the umpires should be given that tool. Also, staying on the DRS, the ICC confirmed there will be 2 reviews in the T20 World Cup for each team. So that's the first time it's been used in the T20 World Cup. And obviously, I think it's a great addition to the tournament and something that was much needed. And then also staying in the T20 World Cup, the ICC have confirmed that if there are COVID cases in teams, we won't have a situation like we saw in Old Trafford where a team could pull out on the day. It will be adjudicated by an independent committee that will decide the course of action from there, because it's an ICC event, unlike a bilateral match where the teams can decide themselves. They won't be able to do that. So India, sorry, you're going to have to turn up to every game. Bad luck. If your physio gets COVID, you got to play. And also on the T20 World Cup, there's no free-to-air TV coverage in Australia, Daniel. I was quite surprised at this. That's because Channel 9's agreement with the ICC, I think, is over. They were slated to broadcast the local T20 World Cup in Australia last year. It's not on the anti-siphoning list, so that means there's no obligation for a free-to-air broadcaster to be offered the coverage, and therefore there's no coverage apart from on Foxtel and KO. And I was sort of interested how people would react to that. And I think the response has been kind of lukewarm, which indicates to me, Daniel, that still for Australian cricket fans, Test cricket and 50 over World Cups hold a special place, whereas the T20 World Cup's just not there yet.
And I think the sentiment is shared by the people who are in control of the anti-siphoning laws. If they're not including the T20 World Cup in this, then it seems to be that they kind of agree with the general population. I'm a little bit disappointed not to see some sort of World Cup cricket on free-to-air TV. And personally, growing up, as someone who didn't have cable television for a long time growing up, tournaments like this were so big in my heart and in the hearts of many around the country. To have it not on free-to-air TV, I think you're potentially alienating a certain portion of Australian fans. But in saying that, now moving into the digital age, and we have streaming services now that are quite affordable in the context of everything else.
And the other thing is, Daniel, also, I think it also indicates that a lot of pundits just don't rate this Australian side's chances. So, if you're Channel 10 or Channel 7 or Channel 9, why would you fork out how many millions it would be to get the rights to cover it when Australia might not do too well and there's not much local interest? So I think it was a smart decision. More news on local television coverage. Lord Botham is joining Channel 7's cricket coverage. So he will be commentating on all the Ashes Test matches. That's great news. So look, I wanted to ask you, Daniel, what is and you got to smash this out quickly, what is your sort of top 6 for the Australian T20 World Cup? There's a lot of debate. Mitch Marsh spoke in the media yesterday, and he's very happy to bat anywhere, but he did so well at number 3 for Australia on its recent T20 tour. If you keep him at 3, that doesn't really leave a spot in my mind for Steve Smith. But I'm wondering how you've solved this problem.
So it was a blessing and a curse when Mitch Marsh made all these runs at 3, because it forced this question. And talking to you, Manners, just before we started, we've got 11 players who are world class in their own individual right. But when we piece together the team, it doesn't seem to make a balance. There isn't a balance in the batting order between the top 6 or 7 that we have. So there's a lot of square peg, round hole situations in this Australian batting order at the moment. And I look at Finch and Warner, they're guaranteed to open the batting no matter what. So that bit's fine. I think what will happen is it will be situationally based on where Australia are, either if they're chasing or setting a target, where they are at specific points of the innings. So, for instance, if we lose a quick wicket, say within 2 or 3 overs, I think we do send out Matthew Wade almost as a third opener to try and capitalise on the power play.
But Wade's in your side as a batter?
Wade's in my team, yeah. So, I look, Inglis is an interesting one because they wouldn't have picked him if they don't think he'll play some sort of a role. Though I think in terms of being conservative, I think we do play Wade. And then what would happen is if we were to lose 2 wickets in the power play, we'd send Steve Smith in to try and nurse us through 5 to 6
Smith's
overs.
in your 6, yep.
So Smith's in my 6. So we've got Maxwell, obviously, and we've got Marsh, and then we've got Stoinis that would also make up the top 7. Now, where all of those players fit, I don't know.
Warner,
Maxwell,
Wade.
Marsh, Smith, Wade, Stoinis.
Okay, interesting.
So yeah, it's an interesting one. Look, I'm not professing to have the answer here because I know that the team, again, the balance isn't quite right. We've got 11 great players. I just don't know where we all kind of link them all up. You'd think that Maxi would come out at 4 or 5, depending on the situation.
I mean, and surely then maybe, after what he's done for RCB, he's got to stay at 4.
Look, yeah, I think he will, but I think it will just be dependent on how many wickets we lose early in the power play. And I think he will come in from overs, say 7 to 27 onwards and base it off that. Again, I'm not professing to have the answers, and only Justin Langer and his coaching team will know what they're trying to do. But I think we've got to be really fluid with our batting lineup.
They might not, judging from their previous performances.
Yeah, I think we've just got to be really fluid by the way that we send these guys out. I don't think we can have a rigid top 4 or 5 or even 6. That's my answer. And I know I'm hedging bets there, Manners, but
yeah, so that's
I just think it's a horse.
Look, you got Wade in there, you've fit Smith in there, you got Marsh, Stoinis, and Maxwell with Finch and Warner up top. It's not a bad top 7. I could see them going for that, and I think they will have to maybe be fluid about where they bat certain people. Smith doesn't have the power to maybe close an innings out, but yeah. Look, I'm not sure which way I would go yet for the top 6. I'm going to hold off on that one. Alrighty, and last bit of news to wrap up Cricket Daily. Congratulations to the Island women. They have beaten the Zimbabwe women's team by 85 runs in their 4th ODI, winning the series 3-1. Irish player Amy Hunter made her maiden ODI ton, 121 not out. So well done to the Irish women on that series win. Well, Daniel, that's it for our first Cricket Daily on YouTube. Thanks for joining me. I didn't love your top 7 answer yet. I think you need to, if you're an Aussie selector, I think you need to be more decisive. But
people get paid a lot more money to make those decisions than me, Manners.
All right. So if you're listening, Cricket Daily is now streamed on YouTube. So find the Cricket Unfiltered podcast YouTube channel. The link, we're still going to be releasing it every day as a podcast. But thanks for listening or watching.